Hag Sameach. I do have some thoughts to share as an introduction to our Yiskor service, which will begin in just a moment, but I want to just share with you a little bit about last night in the sanctuary. So last night at Erev Shavuot, our teenagers, Justine Balin was amongst them, our grade 11 and 12 students led us in study and then spoke to us from the Bima and shared with us the reading of the Ten Commandments. And they did this as a culmination activity on their year of study as a connection between Israel and their Jewish identity. 5 of our students went with Mark on the March of the Living to Poland and to Israel. And all of our students spent an intensive year of study looking at Israel through the lens of what does modern Israel mean to them, looking at Israeli history, looking at various narratives, studying modern Israeli politics and the challenges, internal and external, that face the state of Israel. And it just was such an inspiring evening. We'll put the video up from it up on the website after the holiday. But I need to tell you that when we talk about Shavuot and receiving Torah, and I know I make this comment sometimes at a bar mitzvah, but it was even more poignant last night. To see these young people, half of whom were about to head off to university, to have truly embraced Judaism on their own terms, to have incorporated into the fabric of their identity in a way that they could articulate it to us, and I know they will be able to articulate on the quads of their campuses, in Hillel houses, and in those moments when they are confronted in classrooms or in dialogues where that Jewish identity and their relationship with Israel is challenged, was, I think, the very essence of what must have happened at Sinai generations and generations ago. When our people said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do it and then we'll understand it, Nishma, we'll incorporate it afterwards. These children, who are no longer children, have been doing it their entire lives, right? From the moment they entered some kind of Jewish preschool or day camp program all the way through bar and bat mitzvah. And last night was the Nishma. Last night was the moment when they incorporated it into who they were, and it was just very, very special. And you are all a part of that. Sure, Rabbi Brown and Cantor Tassick and I teach them in classes, but you model for them when they come to synagogue and make sure that this institution is here for them. So I wanted to share that special evening with you. And so our thoughts turn to those who are not with us, as we recall them, as our tradition teaches us to do, to remember them throughout our lives, to remember their lives. Remember to take out the trash. Remember to pick up the laundry. Remember to stop by the market. Remember to call your mother. I was sitting with someone recently in my study, and he was sharing with me memories of his mother. How it had been more than a few years since his mother had died. And he was explaining that before she died, no matter wherever he was in the world, he would call his mother every Shabbos before she lit the Shabbos candles. Remember to call your mother, he said to me, because still today, years later on Friday afternoons, there is a split second, he said, when I reach for the phone, knowing there was someone that I should call, and then I realize that there's no longer anyone to call. Not her anyway. Not anymore. Remember to call your mother, a memory that still aches. We Jews are good at remembering. Not remembering maybe what errands need to be run or what is on our shopping list, but our remembering is more significant and more purposeful than that. We Jews are good at remembering. From Pesach to Purim to Yom HaShoah, we're commanded to remember, not forget. We remember that we were slaves. We remember that we're not allowed to forget, not Haman and not the Holocaust. At this moment at Yiskor, the essence of our Jewish remembering is so much more personal. At this moment, our remembering causes that bittersweet ache that despite the sorrow and pain, remembering is still joyful. Despite the sorrow and pain, our remembering today, it still is joyful. It's like that phone call that we don't get to make anymore. When we remember, we do make it. We remember those who were dear to us, our loved ones who we wish could be sitting here with us. If only we could pick up the phone, share our thoughts and our feelings. If only we could hold on to them a little longer. We're not here at Yiskor to tell stories that take us back simply because it feels good. If our remembering is more than history, if our remembering is more than nostalgia, why do we remember today? Memory brings the past and its meaning into the present. The deeper purpose of Yiskor is three things: faith, identity, and obligation. Remembering at Yiskor, as we do this morning, is about faith. Faith that the lives of our loved ones had a purpose, that their lives taught us a lesson, that instilled values in us. We remember our loved ones, we affirm a deep belief that life has purpose. When we tell stories, we remember what they accomplished. When we laugh, we remember how they touched us. When we cry, we recall how important their lives were to us, to others, and to the whole world. Remembering at Yiskor is an act of faith. Remembering at Yiskor is also about identity. Our loved ones created who we are. For better or for worse, they shaped us. And our memory continues to be formed. Our memory continues to form who we are, our memory of them. When we remember our loved ones, our grandparents, our parents, our siblings, our spouses, even our children, we think about how they live on in us. Our gestures are theirs. Our values are theirs. Our education is based upon theirs. When we smile, our face looks like theirs. When we cry, our tears are based upon theirs. Our honesty, the loud voice of conscience, the books we love, the music we appreciate, even our sense of humor. Who we are is shaped by who they were. And we come to understand our identity, our lives, in connection to those whom we remember, who live on in us. Yiskor is about identity. And finally, our remembering at Yiskor is about obligation. How do we carry on these lessons in our lives, the lessons of their lives and ours? Yes, our remembering is about so much more than history, and it's about more than nostalgia. Yiskor reminds us that a shared past means a shared identity. Yiskor reminds us of our obligation to live our lives in their shadow by carrying their stories, their priorities, their values into our lives as a light, as a candle, as a torch. When at Pesach or at Hanukkah our homes are filled with the smells of their recipes, we fulfill our obligation to remember. Yes, it's very Jewish. You can remember through food. When we feed the homeless or donate to a tzedakah cause that touched their lives, we are fulfilling our lives, fulfilling our obligation to live our lives based upon the values of theirs. And when we love our family because they taught us to, we are fulfilling our obligation to remember of Yiskor, to remember for blessing. That's the meaning of it. Remember to take out the trash. Remember to pick up the laundry. Remember to stop by the market. Remember to call your mother. Today at Yiskor, our remembering is so different. Faith, identity, and obligation. Faith. When we remember our loved ones, we restore our faith that their lives mattered and that their lives still matter. Identity. When we remember, we are reminded that who we are is shaped by who they were. An obligation. When we remember our loved ones, we fulfill our obligation to keep them alive in our lives, in our obligation that their lessons, their love, should remain a part of it, that their memory should be a blessing. We remember at Yiskor because Zecher Sadik Livracha, the memory of the righteous, lives on as a blessing. Amen. Our Yiskor service